Manel Kape just leapfrogged Tatsuro Taira to fight Joshua Van next for the title. I said that might be a bad day for him. I mean, he just absolutely blew out Brandon Royval in the first round of their fight, in the last ESPN card, in the last fight card of 2025, in the last fight of 2025. Yes, Manel Kape is the final winner after never making fights. After having all of these issues, all of these opponents pulled out, Manel Kape is the one that finished the year off with a bang. And when I say a bang, I mean literally like a right hook, bang, put you out, and then some elbows to a good measure. Yes, Manel Kape is the man. Before we get into this episode, like and subscribe to this thing. Also in the description, Substack, Discord, boxing channel. If you like all that kind of stuff, it's down there for you. He took on this flyweight contender, perennial contender, Brandon Royval, and to be honest with you, Manel Kape looked like a championship level fighter. I mean, he was completely calm and under the pressure that Brandon Royval traditionally brings to a fight, because Brandon Royval brings a lot of pressure to a fight. Manel Kape's like, no big deal. I got this. And he did. He got this. He got this beautifully. And that gives me a lot of confidence for what Manel Kape can do against a Brandon Royval or a Joshua Van, or against an Alessandro Pantoja, someone who beat him in his UFC debut. Talk about a heck of a UFC debut, right? Like, let me fight Pantoja, probably the second best flyweight of all time. Good luck with that one. He's rebounded well. He's rebounded so fantastically. Manel Kape is probably the next title contender. You guys gotta be okay with it. I mean, he's so talented, man. 22-7, hyper experience, and I'm pulling up his record now. He's won 3 straight, dating back to that loss to Muhammad Mokaev in 2024, which seems like forever ago, right? But since then, he's beaten Bruno Silva, Asu Almabayev, and now Brandon Royval. Wow, so it really did blow me out the water. Like, I thought I completely got this one wrong leading into this. I was like, Brandon Royval's about to run through this guy. The best win he has is Asu Almabayev, and Royval's beaten names like Brandon Moreno. He's fought the best of the best. He's fought and went to war with Joshua Van. I thought Brandon Royval was going to put the pace, put the power, and put the pressure on. But you look at the southpaw stance coming from Manel Kape, and it really did start to, it slowed down that early momentum that Brandon Royval likes to bring to the table. And that really played into the favor of Manel Kape, who pushed him to the fence and just constantly wanted to push him there to where he couldn't do anything. And once he's back to the fence, he wants to put him away. And that's how he eliminated Brandon Royval from primarily from title contention, right? Like, he starts out, his left hand's forward, so he might not have been a southpaw. Royval's probably the southpaw. I might have misspoke there. Regardless, they're opposite stances, and he's pressuring in Brandon Royval. He's pushing him in. He's going in there, and he wants to get him to the fence. And that's kind of his game. Like, I'm going to put you to the fence, and I'm going to, blast you once you get there. And that's exactly what he did. So, left hand forward, he's pushing, he's throwing big, kind of squares his hips up a little bit to make Royval like, oh, there's some power shots coming this way. And then he steps into southpaw, which he puts his right foot forward. Now, Brandon Royval's like, okay, well, I'm safely okay to circle to that right hand side. Psych, boom! Big right hook over the top. I mean, as he's to the fence, there's only one way you can go. There's 2 ways you can go. You can either go into his power hand of a southpaw, which is his left hand, be a big left hand, or you can go into his lead right hook. Alex Pereira loves this shot. He loves backing people to the fence and really finding that left hook as they try and get away from his power hand or from his right hand, as Magomed and Ankalaev learned the hard way. So it's the exact same type of mechanic. You push them to the fence where they can't go backwards anymore, where they can't pivot, where they can't do anything like that. And that's how you handle fighters that pivot, that move, that try and the very, very squirrely. You put them on the fence, and there's one of 2 ways that you can go. Kape found it. Big right hook, and then that just put Royval on his tail. I really did think this was a breakout performance for Manel Kape. That said, my homie Gene Rogers, like, I never thought Brandon Royval was that good, and I don't know if I agree with him there. But Gene, he's on to something. Like, Brandon Royval does drop the ball a lot, and he loses a lot of fights that he probably shouldn't. And at the end of the day, it's the results that matters. It's winning or losing, winning or losing. You got to win, 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 win. That's why I don't consider Anderson Silva or BJ Penn in the all-time greatest conversations, is because those late career losses matter. They matter. George St. Pierre didn't have the late career losses. John Jones, Demetrius Johnson, none of them have the late career losses that, these guys has. Islam probably not going to have the late career losses either. But Royval traditionally loses a lot of fights. And I was kind of looking forward to a rematch with Joshua Van with Royval, because that first fight was so much fun. But boy, Manel Kape really makes it exciting. And if Pantoja's not getting an immediate rematch with how that elbow dislocated just last week, they're talking about running it in Houston already. And I don't remember when the Houston fight is, but they're talking about running this fight in Houston. Manel Kape versus Joshua Van. I'm about it. Give it to me. If Pantoja's out, Pantoja deserves a title shot. He should not have to fight again. Pantoja's out. Joshua Van needs to fight somebody, and if he's looking to fight somebody soon, because Joshua Van loves activity, he's not cutting a lot of weight to make 125, if any at all. Why not Manel Kape? The common consensus was last week that Tatsuro Taira was going to be next, because he just knocked out Brandon Moreno. Knocked out. A lot of people don't think that was the case, but I won't get into him not intelligently defending himself by just covering up, as Tatsuro Taira had a figure 4 body lock from the back, so he's not intelligent to defend himself, so watch it and the ref call it off, right? We're not going to get into that. That's last week's stuff. But with this type of performance over a Brandon Royval, who went to war with Joshua Van, who was in the fight until the last 20 seconds when Van knocked down Royval, with that type of performance, that puts you into that conversation. And I don't know how Kape would handle Joshua Van. We know a lot about Van that's good, but we also have a lot of unknowns about him. We know he can go the distance, but what happens when he faces a heavy Manel Kape hitter? What happens if he's not the fastest fighter? I lean Joshua Van in this fight. I think Joshua Van does take the win. That said, I also think Manel Kape has shown hey, he is legitimately one of the best fighters in the world, especially at 125. You've got to give him his chance. I think the boxing of Van and the movement of Joshua Van will give Manel Kape problems. And I think once the fight goes on, because we've seen Manel Kape lose. We've seen him lose, and it's never been to strikers. He's never struggled with strikers. Look at the fights he lost. Nicolau, which, that was a weird fight. Pantoja, he lost to Pantoja in the UFC, and he lost to Muhammad Mokaev in the UFC. What does that say about Mokaev, though? How good is he? So, it's interesting for Kape, because it's you just fought a Brandon Royval. We just watched him fend off the takedowns of Asu Amabaya. What does he bring to the table different? And it's that pedigree of striking that he's so good at. It's that pedigree of striking. And that's what's most interesting about this to me. 2 high-level strikers, one with bricks for hands, one with the technical masterpiece that is, he's a mastermind, Joshua Van is. If we're going to defend this title, let's do it against Manel Kape. Tatsuro Taira can wait. Him and Horiguchi can fight after they do the Amir Albazi fight for Horiguchi next in February. So Taira versus Horiguchi in Japan. Put Manel Kape there, Jiri Prochazka there. Put all the rising guys that come to the UFC there. That's what you do. And then you have Joshua Van in Houston fighting Manel Kape. That's the move. If you want to sell tickets, bro, that is the move. All right, guys, so not next, but the future matchup between Kevin Vallejos and Jean Silva, it's going to feed generations, bro. Like the girls say, it's giving. Yes, Kevin Vallejos knocked out Giga Chikadze in the second round in the co-main event of UFC Vegas 112. I mean, took him out behind into the pasture and just put him down. Spinning back fist. Absolutely killer knockout. Oh my God. I jumped out of my chair. Not quite. Actually, I'd been desensitized before that. We'll be talking about Morgan Charriere and how terrible he is later, right? Kevin Vallejos has bricks in his hands. Like, they talk about fighters doping their gloves and putting plaster Paris and stuff, like in the histories, and you read the old books, and he put plaster in his hand in his wraps, and when he started sweating it melted the plaster and made it hard, and yeah, blah blah. Kevin Vallejos has it naturally. I mean, goodness, this guy is incredible. He took on a kickboxer, Giga Chikadze. Now, I will say this: Giga Chikadze is not what he used to be, but we'll get into that later. Let me go back. We'll get into that later. Kevin Vallejos is 3-0 in the UFC. I'm looking at it right now. He's 3-0 in the UFC. Sungwoo Choi and Danny Silva. Okay. 2 really good fights. Sungwoo Choi, I think, was that the Sphere card? I don't remember. Regardless, he knocked out Cam Teague on the Contender Series. Like, he's lost to Jean Silva on the Contender Series, which is crazy. That's a fight you need to go back and rewatch, because that's a fireworks of a fight. But you watch him go in there, and when he's throwing, it's like, oh my gosh, this dude just, if he connects, it's over. Like, it is, that's a wrap, Jack. It is over if Kevin Vallejos connects. And he connected to the unknockoutable Giga Chikadze. Giga Chikadze had never been knocked out before in MMA. And then he fought him. Like, Giga Chikadze is taking punishment. Like, Calvin Kattar punished him. Arnold Allen, David Onama punished him. But Kevin Vallejos caught him lacking. Caught him lacking as he exited against the cage. This goes again back to what we were talking about with Manel Kape, right? Like, Vallejos he's trying to put him against the cage. And once he does, like, if he's controlling one side, Giga can only go one way. So Vallejos is like, okay, not a biggie. Spinning back fist. Let's throw it in and see what happens. And what happens is it hits him with his forearm and leaves him stiff on the ground. Like, you ever seen that scene in Wolf of Wall Street where Leonardo DiCaprio, Jordan Belfort, took too many prohibited substances and he was trying to get into his Lamborghini? And my Lamborghini here. I can't. It's automatic. I can't stop it. But, like, that's what Giga Chikadze was like hitting up. He's like, hang up the phone. He couldn't get up. He's trying to get up on, like, his wrist and stuff. It was the goofiest thing I've ever seen. It was so heavy. And, like, let's give Chikadze a little bit of credit. Like, he did manage to give Kevin Vallejos a little bit of trouble. So the open side body kick really is like, that's his bread and butter. You know that's coming. And he checked a kick early on and his shin was bleeding heavy. But, like, that made into, like, oh, look how red the side of Kevin Vallejos is. Oh, that's the blood of Giga Chikadze from his shin. Oh, he's landing. That's what that's telling us. The kicks, the open side body kick was giving him absolute fits that first round. But Vallejos managed to go in there and, you know, kind of do away with all of that and put him down like he should have. He managed to. It was like, yeah, good job. You did it. And then pushed him to the fence and knocks him out. And it's like, okay, that's a little different. I'll take it. Oh, man, he's such a banger, bro. And, you know, at 145, this Kevin Vallejos, guys, he's trouble. He's trouble. He's got one loss, and that's to Jean Silva. And that was a banger of a fight. That was a really fun fight. I vaguely remember, you know, I mean, obviously Jean Silva got the win. I vaguely remember it was fairly close, and I was like, man, you know, Vallejos will be in the UFC sometime. I don't pay attention to Contender Series all too much. I'm going to go back and rewatch it this week. How about that? They need to run that back. They need to run that back because that is a banger of a fight. Two guys that just bang each other out, and, you know, no Diddy, but, like, they are just dogging on each other. It's beautiful work. As a matter of fact, let's take a look at 145 real quick here. I think I have it pulled up. So no. So you go to 145 and you look at the rankings off here to the right where Volkanovski is the champion. And let's see, you've got Giga Chikadze, who he just beat, so he'll likely be ranked now. You got David Onama, who's terrified of power. Dan Ige is old. Patricio Pitbull's old. And you got Jean Silva. Josh Emmett, Brian Ortega fighting at 55 now apparently. Steve Garcia, banger. Youssef Zalal, banger. Like these two fights, Garcia and Zalal would be absolutely barn burners. In addition to Jean Silva, right? Arnold Allen, don't know what he's doing. Sterling, old. Lerone Murphy, might be smart enough to neutralize him. But like you look at some of these matchups, it's like Onama probably loses. Dan Ige, no way. Pitbull, no way. Josh Emmett, no way. Brian Ortega, absolutely not. Like you got to look at Jean Silva, Steve Garcia, and Youssef Zalal, the new blood for the division, before you start thinking to yourself like, okay, yeah, these guys would be fun fights for Kevin Vallejos. What a win, man. Like I gotta give him credit where credit's due, because like he's so fun. He's so fun. And I just can't get enough of him. I need more Kevin Vallejos in my life. Cesare Oleschuk and Cesar Almeida suck, so we'll skip over that for sure. Melquizael Costa absolutely stiffened. I mean, I talked about jumping out of my seat for Giga Chikadze. I was like desensitized. I was like, oh my gosh, all of this has left my body, because a few minutes earlier, Melquizael Costa caught himself a body and a half. I mean, he had the last pirate Morgan Charriere doing his thing. He literally was like, Melky Costa's in there doing his best Thomas Jefferson impression and destroying the last pirate in the Barbary Wars. If you don't know, Thomas Jefferson started the U.S. Navy to combat pirates back in like the 1780s, 1790s. The Barbary Wars, look into it, super cool. Anyways, we're not here to talk about history, even though I'm a love it. Melky Costa ends the year at 4-0. Who couldn't do that? Renner to Ritter, Marab Dvalishvili. Melky Costa did. This dude's good. He's very, very good. And, you know, he sticks out because he looks like a mix between Dominic Cruz and Dustin Poirier. But you look at his record, and like he lost to like Steve Garcia and Thiago Moises. Like, okay, Thiago, I can't get behind. The Steve Garcia, I can. You look though, actually, come on, I'm gonna take you over to the web, guys. You look over here and you see like the Austin Lingo win. Lingo was okay at one point. Nuremberg, that's a good win. Andre Fili, great win. Christian Rodriguez, Julian Erosa, like Erosa was supposed to be a tough fight for him. He managed to look good in that one, and now he just stiffens the ever popular Morgan Charriere. He is a fantastic fighter. He's fantastic. He's so good. Guys, you need to watch Melky. He's like, I want a top 15 fight, then a number one contender fight, and then a title fight in 2026. Like, let's pump the brakes a little bit there, but you know, what weight class is that? 145, 135, I think. 145. Let's pump the brakes there, but hey, I like where you're at. You got like Kevin Vallejos who look great. You've got these other young bucks in there. You've got Steve Garcia who looks fantastic every time he fights now. Melky Costa might be a problem in that division too, guys. Like we're seeing like featherweight's an old division. You got the Ortegas, you got the Josh Emmets, you've got all these old guys. Alexander Volkanovski's old. We're gonna start seeing these guys cycle out and start to lose to tomorrow's fighters. Tomorrow's fighter is like today's fighter, Melky Costa and Kevin Vallejos. We've got to stop. Like the head kick, first of all, the head kick was beautiful because like Charriere still had his hand up, and that's just how precise and how powerful the head kick was. But we have to stop getting excited for Morgan Charriere. Like, he's not that good of a fighter. He's 21-12-1. Dude's like treading water at this record, you know. Chepe Marischal, I think it was, that beat him. Nathaniel Wood beat him. He's beaten Gabriel Miranda, Zacchini, and Nate Landwehr. Nate, if I don't lose, I'm probably going to win Landwehr. We've got to stop, like, getting hyped. Like, Charriere, he's exciting. I get it. He's fun. He's exciting. He's an entertaining fighter, but, like, we got to treat him like he's not a world beater, because he's not. He's not a world beater. He's a fighter that's going to go in there. He's going to fill out your cards. And if you go to France, you got a guy who's going to sell tickets. But this dude's not going to end up winning a world champ. So we've got to stop being excited and hyped for Charriere as some like future prospect that's going to be. He's a launching point for Chepe Marischal and Melquizael Costa. That's what he is. Now he would, he'd kick my butt, but I mean, I'm not a professional fighter. I'm a trash talker on the web. Yeah, I do jiu-jitsu and I'm not good at that. Let's even up. Speaking of not being hyped for prospects, like, who would have thought the guy that went life and death with Rug wouldn't be up to snuff in the UFC? Yes, I'm talking about Buchecha. 13-time jiu-jitsu IBJJ world champion. Who would have thought the guy who goes life and death with Omar Kane, with Rug, wouldn't be up to snuff in the UFC? Because I sure had my doubts. Now, he fought Kenny Nzechukwu, and that fight ended in a draw. And the only reason it ended in a draw is because Buchecha literally slipped to the outside right as he was poking eyes. And he had his fingers splayed. He slipped right into the splayed fingers. Got a point deducted from Kennedy Nzechukwu. He was getting pieced up on the feet, though. And I get Kennedy's a hard fighter to kind of gauge as like long as he is, and as hard it is to get in on him. But like, you've got to have some basic takedowns, and he did show some good takedowns. Like, there's one point where he ran the pipe off the fence. That was pretty neat, and I think we could see more people doing that. A lot of trips off the fence, stuff we see Islam do, but like, he struggled to do anything when he had top control, and he struggled to land damage. And that goes to show us that like, pure jiu-jitsu is not going to work in a street fight right now, because these UFC guys, well, in top-level competition, jiu-jitsu will work in a street fight to somebody that doesn't know how to fight. But we're talking about Kennedy Nzechukwu here, who has several, probably 20-plus pro fights. The meta is we know how to get up when we're being hit. You've got to be able to do damage against the fence. Like, go watch Khabib. He's like damaging people. He's not worried about people, improving their position and passing guard. Because once he gets to a position where he's like, okay, I know what I need to do now. Oh, here's some damage, here's some damage, here's some damage. Oh, you're back to a good position. Start to step. Give me that. Oh, Dagestani handcuff. Damage. Wash, rinse, repeat. Put him in the cycle. Buchecha couldn't do that. It's a disgrace. Honestly, if you want to know the truth, it's a disgrace. As much as I like him, and much I think, oh wow, he's got some really cool things. Jiu-jitsu's out of this world. He's just not cut out for MMA. Now, if I'm the UFC, I'm like, how do we get him into UFC BJJ while keeping him under contract as long as possible? Let's keep him getting paid, right? You got to know, like, this dude really doesn't have what it takes. He got some great back takes, and when he's on the ground, he's great. He looks beautiful, and he does some really cool things. Like, he gets his opponent into weird spots, and he's like, okay, I'm totally fine here. I know where to go. But like, the only reason this fight was a draw is because of that eye poke. He did some really good damage in that second round. A lot of people were giving him a 10-8 before the eye poke for that second round. So a 10-7. But he doesn't know how to damage. The only reason he just because of that penalty, because of the eye poke. It's the only reason he won that fight, or he didn't lose that fight, because he lost without the eye poke. It was a 10-9 for him without the eye poke. And then he lost to Martin Buday in his debut. Martin Buday? He's not up to snuff. And the UFC's heavyweight division is not that deep, We've got some guys that are here, but like, who do you put him against? You sign people for him to fight? Like, okay, then you're going to start loading up the card with bad fighters. Now, I'm not calling to cut him or anything like that. No, definitely not. I think Gable Stevenson's a fun fight for him. And if Gable Stevenson gets 2 more wins, why not just skip the contender series, let bygones be bygones, and we book Gable Stevenson versus Buchecha. Stylistic matchup, wrestling versus jiu-jitsu. Think about like Ben Askren and Damian Maia, how fun that was. The scrambles. Think of the scrambles. That would feed generations more than anything. That is what I want. And Buchecha kind of, he's easy pickings for Gable. If he wouldn't be able to take Gable Stevenson down. Like, he would have to rely on his striking, and we saw how good that looked. But King Green, Bobby Green, whatever you call him these days, beat Lance Gibson Jr. Short notice fight. He styled on him, and split decision, weird. Yaroslav Amoslav, that dude's a problem. We're adding him to the welterweight division. He submitted Neil Magny in the first round, and Magny didn't fold when somebody kicked him in the leg, so that's a plus. But Amoslav, man, he's going to be a problem. This dude's really good, and this is somebody we're going to talk a lot about in the future going forward here. Joe Anderson Brito defeated Isaac Thompson. Late notice fight. Thompson had a really good first round, and Brito kind of he settled in and said, "All right, bro, hold on, let's nip this in the bud here." Stephen Asplund beat Sean Sharaf. Everybody was so hyped on Asplund. It was, look at the cardio he's got. Like, dude, he was gassed. Get out of here with that. He's a good fighter. He's a fun fighter, a good action fighter. Him versus Josh Hokett would be cool. Just kind of, let's see what Josh Hokett, what mean things he says about Stephen Asplund, and then let Asplund beat him up. Luana Santos defeated Melissa Corden, unanimous decision. Guilherme Pat defeated Alan Fry, and then Jamie Lynn Horth and Teresa Belda, right hook and follow-up punch, first round knockout. So good win on her part. It was the end of the ESPN era, though, guys. That was a wrap. That's it. No more ESPN. 7 years, and it's crazy to think about too, because like how hyped the ESPN era started. The first ESPN, y'all forget, they used to show title fights on fight nights, especially the beginning of ESPN. They wanted that, Henry Cejudo versus T.J. Dillashaw was the first ESPN card. But then we end up with Taliesin Teixeira versus Derek Lewis main events in 2025. What are we doing? It ended up not being about the quality of fights at the end of the ESPN era. The UFC's incentive was to put on the right amount of fights, the right amount of cards. That's how they got paid. So I am hoping there's financial incentives for the UFC to put on actual good cards in the Paramount era, to actually perform and make stars, because we missed the Conor McGregors and Ronda Rouseys. You've got like Alex Pereira, you've got these guys who could be stars, the Paddy Pimblets and Ilia Toporias, Joshua Van and Pantoja could be stars. You've got so many people who could be absolute megastars in this company. But the way my bank account's set up, is I just got to put on a fight card at the warehouse in the Apex, and I still get paid. We can't have that anymore. We need good fights. And then we got like TKO boxing debut. It's going to be at the Apex. Like, ooh, it's going to be rough. So, end of the ESPN era. Like, you started with good intentions, and you end it terribly. Let's be real. It ended terribly. Manel Kape put a stamp on the era, though. Congratulations to him. Sucks for Brandon Royval, Kevin Vallejos. We've got new stars in the making in the ESPN era. I just hope this carries over and there's a valuable lesson learned, and instead of extracting profit out of every single thing we can, we put on good fights again. We focus on the best fighting the best. Because they say that when they're talking about the boxing stuff now. Oh, the best fight the best. They don't say that with the UFC anymore. They don't say that anymore. I hope it reverses. I don't think it will. Like, I'm not optimistic about it at all. It's a publicly traded company now. But I have hope, and I do think that they can turn the ship around and be like, all right, look, we got a monopoly, but we're doing the right thing. Because like the whole Armin Saryukin thing is like the perfect example of this. And I hope and pray that they fix it. That's it. Just fix it. Make it better. Make it better. So, yeah. Anyways, guys, look. This has been real fun. 2025, great year. I thought these cards, all of them weren't great. We had some fantastic moments. John Jones retiring. You got Ilia Topuria knocking out Oliveira. You got the return of like Horiguchi. You've got all these things that set out to be great. Dustin Poirier's retirement. You've got so many things. This was not a bad year in fights. It wasn't a great year. It's kind of mid. It wasn't a bad year. And I think going forward, we're going to have some more great fights. That's all I care about, more great fights. Give me the good fights, and I'll be happy. Right here, Fight Finders, my baby. It's a docu-series I do on different types of fighting sports, telling stories of fighters, and we got a history episode coming on the sport of boxing in New Orleans in the 1880s and 90s. You want to check it out because it's going to be fun. I'm going in doing some recording on it this weekend, but if you want to watch 1 through 8, it's right here. Check it out, watch it, and sign up.